important things to pay attention to when you're replacing the tensioner is to be sure that this little tab that's on the back fits into the slot in the 12 to 1 o'clock position when you mount it. This is designed to hold the tensioner in place, and so there's a slot that this has to fit into. If you move the hoses, you can sort of see it, but it's more of like a feel that you have to have, and it's right behind this hose. But this tab has to fit into the slot before you tighten down the tensioner, this top tab here. Now the best way to get the tensioner in position is to put the bolt in as you place the tensioner against the engine block or the mount, and to loosen, or rather tighten the bolt slightly, just enough to hold the tensioner in position. You can then more easily place it into the slot. Place the top part into the proper slot as you hand tighten the bolt. So I've hand tightened the center bolt as far as I could by hand, and now I've placed the deep well socket over it, and I'm going to turn it by hand until I get it to the point where I'll use a torque wrench from there. Now you will know that the tensioner is in the right position when you tighten it. You turn it slightly, turn the tensioner, and you'll feel it that it's secure within the area that it should be. If it turns at all, you know it's not properly mounted into the slot that I talked about earlier. Once it's in the slot, it will be snug and fit tightly, even though the bolt is not tight. You won't be able to turn it at all. You'll feel it slip into the slot, and you'll hold it there as you hand tighten the center bolt. So I'm going to install the belt in reverse, and I've placed my breaker bar with my Torx socket in position, and as I turn it, you can see that the belt will loosen and allow me to slip it back into position. Okay, so I'm turning it clockwise in order to loosen. Now you want to make sure that you observe the belt. If you've removed the belt, which is not necessary, but if you've removed the belt, make sure that you replace it or mark it in the proper position, clockwise position. So you want to mark it with a non-erasable marker and put an arrow in the position that it's turning clockwise, so that you'll know to install the belt in the same position, and that's very important. Okay, now you're not going to start the car right away. You're going to look at the belt and observe it, make sure that it's seated properly, and then you're going to bump it a few times, or bump the engine, which is difficult on these models because you have to place your foot on the brake in order to start them. So there's a process that you use to bump it without starting it, and I'll show you how to do that in a moment. So I'm not yet going to replace my engine cover until I'm sure that the belt is in the right position and working properly. So I'm going to hold off on that until I bump the engine a few times and then start the engine to make sure that the belt is seated properly. So to turn the engine over slightly, you're going to turn the key first and then tap the brake. You're not going to hold your foot on the brake first. Okay? So I've tested my belt installation by getting in the driver's seat, turning the key, and then tapping the brake slightly until it turns over without starting. And I've done that about 3 or 4 times, and gotten out a couple of times and looked at the belt and make sure that it was all good. And that's the process that you want to use prior to completing your installation of your cover, your front cover here. And that's about it. Good luck.